Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you'll be listening to. Raw Underground this past Monday was, oh man, Larson, a huge ratings boost. We're talking 6-figure ratings boost.
Like the bare minimum of that level of boost. Yeah, but apparently in the demographics, the quarter hours did well. I saw that on Twitter.
Oh, okay.
That, it did pretty well in terms of the individual demos or the prize demos on the quarter hours. It's all relative terms. Week prior. So if that's a measure of success, then it did well for itself.
Well, you know what? It's something different, and it's something that you and I both feel that there might be some potential if handled right. And so we figured we'd do a favor for the WWE and go ahead and fantasy book out the first year of Raw Underground. And of course, Larson, you have your fantasy book for the year. I have my fantasy book for the year. I want to know what the friendos think about our fantasy books. You're a big fan of competition. You've got a competition in you. I want to know who the friendos think does a better job of fantasy booking this first year of Raw Underground. So let us know in the comments below who you think wins this fantasy book competition. I've just turned into a competition, Larson.
That's fun.
All right.
I like competition.
Good.
Competition is fun. Who goes first? You go first. Why not?
Let's do a coin toss. See who goes first.
Oh, fair.
All
fair.
right. You call it in the air.
All right. Tails.
It's heads. So I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
or I get to decide who goes first?
Whatever.
I'll go first. Okay, here we go. I wrote down a thing. Okay, so between now and SummerSlam, Shane McMahon, with the backing of Triple H and Stephanie, and with the prodding from the Hurt Business, are able to convince Vince to make Raw Underground the actual full third hour of Raw. It's sort of like a docu-style in Vince's office where they're all sitting there trying to convince the old man, hey, look at the ratings, look at the quarter hours, members of the roster, they all want to do something different. There are people who want to break out and they feel this is the way to do it. Even CM Punk said that this is a great idea. Strippers and no hold bars matches is what CM Punk likes. Vince, this could convince CM Punk to come back, and you might not have to break the bank to do it.
Well,
so,
he'll still have to break the bank, but you might convince him to come back.
So, and then they even produce, like, what do they call the special on WWE Network, the day of, or 24 or something like that?
24, yeah.
Okay. What's the day of? What am I thinking of with day of?
I don't know.
I don't know. Make it feel as real as we're willing to believe it is, you know? Make it like kind of a true successor to ECW, because everybody remembers the good stuff about ECW. So, Payback is going to be the first quarterly Raw Underground pay-per-view. Of course, this was announced a couple weeks ago, or suggested or something that's on the schedule, that like a week after SummerSlam, they're going to have Payback. Well, Payback is going to be the first of the big four. It's going to be like you're going to have TakeOver on Saturday. You're going to have the big four pay-per-view on a Sunday. And in the following week, you're going to have a Raw Underground pay-per-view. The first one's going to be Payback. And that's where the first Raw Underground champion is crowned. Obviously, Larson, this is going to be Bobby Lashley, but it's going to be as part of a one-night, 8-man tournament, kind of like the old UFC days. Remember that? How they'd have these tournaments all in one night, and it was great.
You literally have the same fantasy booking at this juncture. It's literally the same thing.
High five. So the finals are between Bobby Lashley and Raw Underground's newest star. How do they pronounce Babatunde's name now? Dabba-Kato?
Yeah.
Okay. So after Bobby Lashley is crowned the first Raw Underground champion, he continues to dominate as champion week after week after week, but other contenders emerge. For example, when Chad Gable fails to cash in on the King's ransom, bang, he's sent to Raw Underground. Feuds are still basically old school type wrestling feuds, but the story bits, like the backstage segments, they're all filmed fly on the wall style like old TNA, and they're a bit more grounded in reality. The motivation here would be the winner's purse and win-loss records. So, I mean, you have sort of stories for people who aren't necessarily chasing the championship. They're chasing money. They're chasing the record so they can go after that championship. The next pay-per-view is going to be following Survivor Series, and that's going to be the Armageddon pay-per-view. Lashley takes on whoever has the best win-loss record since Payback. In this case, it's Shelton Benjamin, his Hurt Business stablemate. And to this point, MVP has been trying to keep it professional between both men. But in this case, at the pay-per-view, he turns on Shelton, because this is still pro wrestling, by saying, if you lose this match, you're out of Hurt Business. And just before the match, he whacks him from behind, gives Lashley the advantage. Shelton still puts on a hell of a performance, but in the end, it's Bobby Lashley. He wins. Shelton loses, but then so he's sent back to SmackDown. But this time he's got like a personality, new potential. He's a baby face. At the Rumble pay-per-view, Bad Blood, the entire show is a gauntlet match to determine who faces Lashley the next night on Raw Underground. That person ends up being Nia Jax, who loses a tough battle against Lashley the next night on Raw. Fast forward to the post-WrestleMania pay-per-view, Ground Zero. Lashley takes... I
feel like you missed the opportunity not having No Mercy as one of the pay-per-views.
Oh, damn it. Yeah, I should have done that. I was trying to think of other names. Ground Zero. Lashley takes on the WWE champion,
Stomping Grounds.
Stomping Grounds. Any of those are good. He takes on...
Fire.
No, not that one. That one sucks. He takes on WWE champion Drew McIntyre, fresh off his successful title defense at WrestleMania. But obviously, because of the Raw Underground pay-per-view, only that title's on the line. And Lashley gets his win over Drew McIntyre. And also, at that particular pay-per-view, Asuka debuts, beating Nia Jax. And of course, after racking up tons of wins over the next 3 months, Asuka is crowned new Raw Underground champion when she beats Lashley at Payback 2021. There's your first year, Larson.
All right, that's pretty good. As far as how Payback goes down, we're kind of in unison there, where for the next month or so, Hurt Business is running through everybody on Raw Underground. A division's formed around it. Tournament crowned first champion at Payback. Complete agreement. And whether it's at the least, Lashley's make it to the finals of this tournament. But then I have another idea.
Okay.
So the weekend prior, Karrion Kross becomes NXT champion. He's not content to just be top guy at NXT. He shows up Raw Underground at Payback at this tournament, and whether it's in the finals against Lashley or after Lashley wins, goes and says, this is my space. This is where I dominate. And so, more or less uninvited, he just starts showing up on Raw Underground, interfering with fights, destroying everybody, destroying the crowd, going after Hurt Business, in all an attempt to say, no, you guys are great and all. This is my domain. This is where I'm going to dominate. Along with NXT, he's going to dominate everywhere.
Okay.
Karrion Kross, TikTok,
Good. TikTok.
Not
the app TikTok, the metaphor TikTok.
Yes. So this is all building up to a Raw Underground match at WrestleMania. So you got NXT champ Karrion Kross taking on Bob Lashley for the Raw Underground title, whatever they decide to call it. In which case, Karrion Kross, he gets the win.
Oh, wow.
So he is NXT champion. He'll have that belt for 6-8 months, something like that. He is Raw Underground champion. And they've had a real issue with NXT call-ups, bringing them up to Raw or SmackDown and making them seem important.
Yeah.
Granted, Raw Underground's a new thing, and maybe having him be brought up so soon is a little too soon. Maybe post Survivor Series. But the idea that you have him arrive on Raw, Karrion Kross that is, in an environment that seems so well suited for his particular skill set as NXT champion, he shows up there, dominates, eventually gets a huge win over Bob Lashley. And then, it's going to take, you could even do something where the following takeover after Mania, I'm going a little bit more than a year maybe. Actually, no, I'm not. The following takeover in June, you tell the story with Keith Lee, you come back around to it. Keith Lee defeats Karrion Kross, gets back that NXT title, then Karrion Kross can move on full-time to Raw, still dominate Raw Underground, and use the success he's had there to transition to larger feuds outside of Raw Underground. If they want to make Karrion Kross seem like a huge deal on the main roster, Raw Underground seems like the perfect outlet to do that.
Yeah. A lot of Karrion Kross's backstage shenanigans vignettes, like when he attacked Dominic Dijakovic, they immediately went to like a space that really looked like Raw Underground, like backstage.
Yeah, I think it's the exact same place.
It could be. It could totally be. I don't know if it would be at Full Sail or the Performance Center or not. I don't know.
Yeah,
but it totally could be. And then yeah, even this past week when he like laid out the entire backstage, it had a very Raw Underground feel to it. Yeah,
and they kind of have a very kind of grimy feel for Raw Underground now. What if they start shooting it all in black and white when he shows up?
That could be cool. That
like
could
really,
be really
he
cool.
literally changes the mood of the entire space, the entire presentation.
Yeah.
You make it really Karrion Kross focused, because you want to build a new star and you want to establish this kind of brand that runs parallel to Raw, that's part of Raw but not. Like Kross seems like the perfect guy. I mean, Hurt Business is great, and I like that they're using them right now to establish. But if they're looking for the future as well, and have Karrion Kross have a good run in NXT, go to Raw Underground, showcase his skills there, and then from there leapfrog to something else on Raw, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I think they should also have a Dana White-esque figure. It's not going to be Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon is too business. He's too like above that. You get Swerve in there. Swerve has made so much money accurately placing bets on these fights that
he managed to buy the territory, essentially.
Exactly, yeah. His money turns into influence, and yeah.
You know what? MVP would be really good in that role, too.
He would, yeah, totally, absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
He'd be really good in that role.
Yeah.
As far as the CM Punk thing, if Vince catches wind that Punk really likes it, and people in WWE are softening on their stance, that they're willing to maybe try to woo Punk back into the fold with a huge paycheck, it might be a way to do it. I don't know. I kind of feel like Phil likes to have a laugh. Not that he wasn't sincere in his praise for Raw Underground, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he said that. Enjoying it is still kind of a little bit tongue-in-cheek.
Oh, for sure. I don't think for a second he's looking at Raw Underground. Because here's the thing. Regardless, Raw Underground is still not going to be WrestleMania. It's not going to be a big thing. And I think if Punk were to come back, he'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to be on an extremely limited schedule, making the most money possible, and the way that they're going to do that isn't through Raw Underground, it'd be through the main event of WrestleManias. That's what he'd be. I don't see him coming back at all. I think that they asked him a question. I was shocked. The only thing I was shocked at is the fact that he watches Raw. Or maybe
that was the most surprising thing. Yeah,
he's just on Twitter enough to see the clips, and he's like, I'll check this out.
Could be. But I think, we spoke about this before, having Payback be the Raw Underground pay-per-view. It makes sense considering it's a weekend after SummerSlam. Have some sort of tournament to crown, whoever the debut champion is. But the same thing, though, is even I know the demos and the ratings look decent this first week. If it falls off a lot the second week, it's just as good a chance as we never see it again after the month of August.
Oh, this is our suggestions are beyond optimistic. Beyond this. I will actually be surprised if this lasts. There's 4 more months about 5 more months in the year,
roughly.
I would be shocked if this lasted to 2021. I really would
I would be shocked. Well, I would be shocked. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't last the month of August.
I agree. I mean, I know some people are making the comparison between that 1/3 hour where they just lowered the lights. I think it's a little bit different than that. This is a more ambitious thing, but they really have a good idea here. I think they could really, dude, the prospect of making the wrestling portion, like the proper pro wrestling portion of Raw, 2 hours, like USA was tweeting out the Raw Underground stuff. So if they just pitched USA, hey, listen, 3 hours is exhausting. A third hour, and it's still us. It's still doing, and let's just try it. Let's just see if it works. I don't see why anybody would say no to that, but it's Vince McMahon, and he has a very distinct idea of what wrestling should be.
I guess the no would come from not so much the creative aspect of things, but whether it aligns with what USA wants for that third hour in terms of advertisers. If the demos are strong, if the numbers are up, if advertisers want to buy space in that third hour, that's going to improve the chances of that third hour being all run Raw Underground.
There is also, you have to wonder, would USA, if they look at this over the next couple of weeks and say, hey, the strongest demo, rating we have is with Raw Underground. Vince, can we make this third hour? I wonder if there'd be pushback from Vince because Raw Underground isn't his thing. And you're basically ceding that 3 hours of Raw is too long, and that this sort of weird form of MMA / wrestling is really a bigger draw than the proper wrestling. I don't know if Vince's ego could handle that. I really don't. I wonder if he'd be like, oh, no, that's not how it should be.
Or he would say, you know what, that's a great idea. Let me get more involved.
And then it'd be a Vince thing, yeah.
And then it'd just be like a weird amalgam of what we see on Raw normally, and it'd just be in this slightly different space.
Yeah, yeah. So
but, if they're trying to get shows back on the road, even limited fans, and maybe just other venues in Florida, I don't know what that means for Raw Underground. How they're going to kind of weave that into the larger storytelling fabric if they do eventually get back on the road in front of fans within the next year. This could just kind of be, in their minds, maybe a bit of a stopgap measure to generate interest. But once, they assume they can go back to business as usual, then they may just say, oh, well, this doesn't really fit into what we want to do now, so bye.
Yeah, that could be. I doubt that's a good point, because I don't know if they'd want to commit to a full third hour of Raw being this when Vince McMahon seems to think that fans are on the horizon.
That, and then, then they from a production standpoint, do you make the Raw live 2 hours, Raw Underground stuff's pre-filmed, and that just airs on USA, or do you do it all live within the venue and then show the third hour for the fans in attendance in the arena on the Tron?
I would suspect that they could film like my gut tells me that they would have USA would get to see Raw Underground, and then they'd film like main event or something, and then and like the way they used to do 205 is like you do main event instead of 205 that third hour, and then you have a dark match with some of the bigger names for the live crowd. Maybe that's the way they approach it.
Yeah,
Raw tapings are so long, anyways.
They are. Yeah. They are really long.
Anyways,
3.5 hours at minimum.
Those are our ideas for Raw Underground. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We appreciate it. Tomorrow, we've got our Survivor Series 1998 review. Going in Raw View is back. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Appreciate it. Till next time. We'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.